Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, for the special AEW edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it's Friday afternoon, so you know what that means. We're here to break down everything that happened in AEW over the last 2 weeks. In that time, there have been some major moments for AEW, including Dynamite passing Nitro as the longest running wrestling show on a Turner, I guess now Warner Brothers Discovery Network. A huge, huge milestone for AEW, and they delivered an incredible show that Wednesday night. The question, of course, is whether the other 6 hours of AEW television that I just watched, in addition to that Dynamite, lived up to that, again, milestone show. We're going to get into all of that momentarily. Off the top here, let the Silver King remind you to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Not only do you get full-length audio for our episodes, you get full-length video interviews with Vic Joseph, Drew McIntyre, and clips of all of our past interviews as well. It's on YouTube at Getting Overcast, and follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can leave questions and comments for the show. We will do our best to read them live on the air here. So really, let's not waste any further time off the top. Let's get right into this breakdown of AEW, because we are going through 2 full weeks of programming. Of course, 4 episodes, more than 8 hours of AEW TV. Going into our normal detail on each segment, it would be totally foolish, particularly when it comes to the prior week that all of you have seen and digested. So instead, we're just going to take an overview of each segment and match, and then offer thoughts and analysis as we normally do. Of course, I will spend additional time on matches and segments that deserve it. As far as each of the 4 shows individually, both collisions for me, again, I can only give you my opinion. They were a total waste of time. The Dynamite that broke the Nitro record was awesome from start to finish. It was buoyed by an incredible crowd, an awesome venue. It was just a terrific 2 hours of wrestling television. And along with the Raw after WrestleMania and that special NXT show at Madison Square Garden Theater, I would say those 3 are the best individual TV episodes of the year as far as wrestling goes. This week's Dynamite, it kind of stood somewhere between those shows. Moments of quality, some exciting wrestling. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of ho-hum creative. Like, yes, I understand that there's a portion of AEW fans, they just want to see awesome wrestling. And if that's all you want, then let's say this week's Dynamite, it delivered for you, because there were 4 matches on the show. That was it. And all of them were very good to great, depending on what your, favorite style is. But if you want more than that, you don't just want storytelling and creative, you want quality storytelling and creative. And I don't know, maybe it's because it was the last show I watched right before taping the podcast. I just found it leaving something to be desired as a hook to get me to want to come back next week. Now, I've never missed an episode of AEW TV. I've never missed an AEW pay-per-view. So I'm coming back next week. I'm just saying, if I'm looking at it, from the standpoint of someone who might be a first-time watcher or an occasional watcher, coming out of Dynamite last week, I'm locked in. Coming out this week, if I watch Saturday, who cares? That would be my mindset as a casual fan. Let's go ahead, break down everything that happened across 8 hours of AEW TV. So on Collision 2 weeks ago, Claudio Castagnoli cut a rough promo on Samoa Joe and the Ops, accepting the trio's title challenge. Jon Moxley stepped into Pac's role and told Hook not to worry because chicks dig scars. Wheeler Yuta moved his hair. I guess the idea was that he was going to show one, but the lighting was so poor, it looked like a regular forehead, so I don't even know what he was doing there. So on Dynamite 2 weeks ago, the trio's titles were on the line. The Ops beat the Death Riders to win the straps in 14 minutes. Powerhouse Hobbs replaced Hook, who I guess must have been concussed, as we assumed the week prior. Willow Nightingale came out to steal a chair and flip Mox off. Marina Shafir did nothing about that. The Young Bucks came down to grab a chair. Swerve Strickland thwarted them with a double swerve stomp off the barricade. Tagging completely stopped over the final minutes. Katsuyori Shibata eliminated Claudio. Hobbs murked Yuta into the announce table. Willow took out Marina. And Joe countered Death Rider into a coquina clutch for the knockout win. Baby faces from the locker room, including Dark Order, for some reason, they came out to celebrate. This was an awesome main event. The baby faces finally figured out they just need to match numbers, and they can actually beat the Death Riders. It only took them 9 months to do that. The whole match was massively enhanced by the Boston crowd and the venue, as I mentioned before. You could see people standing on 3 different decks overlooking the ring, all completely invested and involved. Literally, my only criticism was, ironically, how quick the referee called the knockout. It was faster than Gunther tapped out to Jey Uso. The idea was for Mox to lose to Joe and create a reason for an AEW title match, and that's cool. But Mox should have at least been able to fight through the submission for 5, 10, 15, 30, ideally, seconds. It was so ridiculously fast, they just called the match. But again, the match was awesome. It was the right time to do the title change, getting a celebration at the end of a historic episode. I understand why they did it in this spot with these guys. It all worked. On Collision this week, Death Riders opened by throwing a fit like children and attacking a bunch of randoms ringside. Mox said he hates the faces and he hates the Bucks, but he still wants to fight Samoa Joe to the death, so he offered a title challenge. This was a really painful 8 minutes as a show starter. We later saw a taped promo from Joe who said they're coming for more. On Collision, the TNT title was on the line. Adam Cole retained over Claudio Castagnoli in a 15-minute open challenge. Cole took a huge superplex, but immediately countered into a crucifix. It was a cover that he countered into a crucifix. Claudio similarly threw a fit like he was a child, tossing and kicking the announce table. The writers came out and calmed him down. And that was the segment. On Dynamite this week, Master P. Yeah, make him say, oh, na. Master P opened the show introducing the Ops, which had, I think, new and worse music. They all wore University of New Orleans gear. The Riders attacked from behind, but P stood 10 toes down face-to-face with Mox. Joe put Mox in coquina clutch from behind. P delivered what I'm pretty sure was supposed to be 2 body punches, but it looked like he was shivving him. I mean, that's just what it looked like. The Elite saved the heels. Shafir shoved Mox away from them. Swerve and Kenny Omega with a chair came out. The heels ran away. Joe accepted the title challenge. Swerve kind of gave him a side eye. Cameras didn't completely show it. This all just happened. I don't really have much of a take on it. But what I will say is that Swerve, Omega, and Will Ospreay, who we're going to talk about in a moment, are the 3 biggest baby faces in AEW right now. You can argue Hangman Page as well. I think they're 1, 2, and 3 above Page today. I watched 8 hours of AEW TV. They spoke a combined 0 words. Could you imagine going 2 full weeks of WWE TV without, let's say, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and we'll say Seth Rollins because he had been a babyface, without any of them speaking? And the only time you saw them, Ospreay had a huge match. Actually, he had 2 matches that we're going to talk about. But the only time you saw them outside of a wrestling context was just walking out and delivering one sort of stomp and otherwise carrying a chair. That's all you got from your 3 top baby faces. When you talk about lack of storytelling, lack of hook, that to me spoke volumes about some of AEW's biggest problems. But again, Ospreay did wrestle and he had 2 great matches. And we're going to talk about those coming up. On Collision 2 weeks ago, Konosuke Takeshita beat Brody King in an Owen whatever round match. Raging Fire was a false finish. Takeshita then hit a cradle pile driver and wheelbarrow German, which was insane. This is a king size. He also hit a lariat as well. He ultimately won with 4 pump knees. It was easily the match of the night. 4 stars, A-. On Dynamite 2 weeks ago, Will Ospreay beat Konosuke Takeshita in an Owen match, 22 minutes. Ospreay countered Avalanche Raging Fire into Stun Dog Millionaire. Then he hit an Oz Cutter outside, another inside. Between, he hit a beautiful Sky Twister. Takeshita came back with his wheelbarrow German for a great false finish. He collapsed before Hidden Blade. He played dead, catching Will with Raging Fire for a false finish. They each kicked out at 1 in succession, despite Ospreay hitting Hidden Blade, his usual finisher. Ospreay used Takeshita's own Cradle Tombstone and wheelbarrow German. He no-sold that and hit Ospreay's Hidden Blade for no cover. Ospreay flipped out of a lariat from the top rope, which was sick, landed Hidden Blade for a false finish, multiple signature counters into Styles Clash for another false finish, and the actual finish was a terrific counter into Stormbreaker for the 1-2-3. The energy here was absolutely insane. The work rate was immense. There were multiple slips and stumbles in this match, but I actually liked them because it added a level of realism that was lost by the 1 counts and the constant no selling. The biggest drawback, as usual, was commentary, which crowed about this being the best Dynamite match ever, 2/3 of the way into it, and then told us 3 different times when it was over that AEW has the best wrestling. As this was the Dynamite that eclipsed Nitro as the longest running show on Turner adjacent networks, it was blatantly obvious that Tony Khan basically told these guys, please go out there and put together what will be considered a 5-star match. And for many people, I'm sure they did. For me, it was close. 4.75 stars, A+, among the best matches in Dynamite history. This did not live up to the Revolution match, which I believe I gave 5 stars between them for the reasons that I just mentioned. But it was a tremendous TV bout, well deserving of every ounce of praise it received. To each their own. If this was 5 stars for you or more than that, fine, because it was freaking incredible. For me, I want some story. I want something to sink my teeth into. Just false finish after false finish, 1 count after 1 count, no sell after no sell. You need more than that to get 5 stars out of the Silver King. It's as simple as that. On Dynamite, 2 weeks ago, the Elite confronted Hangman Page before his match, reiterating that they cost Swerve the AEW title on his behalf. They told Hangman to win the Owen and bring the AEW title back to the Elite while they deal with the Death Riders. Kazuchika Okada then told him to smile. Page, despite hating these guys, somehow had nothing to say to them at all, which was really odd. On Dynamite 2 weeks ago, Hangman beat the Wild Card, a debuting Josh Alexander, in 13 minutes. This was an Owen match. He won with a catch small package. I got to give AEW credit for its consistency, having debuting talent lose matches. It's really tough to do. He still had the headgear Alexander for what it's worth. Solid, but overrated match. The right winner, given Hangman may actually take the entire tournament. Don Callis came out with Kyle Fletcher, the next round opponent. He whispered to Alexander, Callis did, so he attacked Page and hit a powerbomb. I guess he got some heat back with that. On Collision this week, Takeshita and Alexander beat Tomohiro Ishii and Rocky Romero. Ishii got screwed by Romero, who dropped off the apron in the finish. He and a returning Trent Beretta attacked. Callis then gave Beretta a wrench to murk Ishii. I presume this will involve like a returning Orange Cassidy when he recovers from injury, but what a boring ass heel turn and overall faction with the exceptions of Takeshita and Fletcher, but like Romero and Beretta in this group, like, who gives a shit? On Dynamite, Takeshita and Alexander beat Ospreay and King. I gave this storyline relevance credit simply because of Ospreay's continued hatred of Callis, but there was no actual reason for this match to happen. Like, King didn't get screwed by them, and Ospreay hasn't been involved with them recently. Ospreay and King were simply Takeshita's last 2 opponents, and they teamed up to fight him and Alexander, who, again, just fought Hangman, who wasn't even part of this. So it's just, anyway, Alexander pinned King in the finish with Archer helping as Brody just continues to lose more than anyone should with his size, strength, and presence. It's insanity. Archer murked Ospreay after the bell. Spoiler alert, this guy lost to Kevin Knight on TV, but is now beating up Will. Fletcher then showed up with Hangman saving, only for Romero and Beretta to take him out. Fletcher nailed Hangman with a brainbuster to end it. So we have the Riders and the Elite in a really odd heel amalgamation against the Ops, Omega, and Swerve. Then there's this inconsistent Callis family against an even more random combination of like Ospreay, Knight, some conglomeration people, and maybe Hangman is involved, except Ricochet is also feuding with Knight and company, and the Bucks had a match against Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey for some reason. We'll circle back to those in a few minutes. I'm seriously struggling to understand what they are trying to do, unless they're going to do like a 4-team stadium stampede or something like that. Like, why are Romero and Beretta being treated like a big deal here? I thought Cage and Archer were both injured. Apparently it's just Cage. So they had to add 3 people to the Callis family to make up for that. I know Beretta was kind of already there, but I'm just saying they had to add 2 people plus return Beretta to make up for Cage not being there. I'm just missing this. I'm not fully understanding what's happening here. On Collision 2 weeks ago, Gates of Agony beat 2 jobbers in 60 seconds. They later bragged about not being hurt in a squash match and challenged Hurt Syndicate. This despite it being their first win on AEW television in 10 months. But they challenged for a tag team title match. And guess what? They got it. That is truly terrible booking. So on Dynamite 2 weeks ago, the tag team titles were on the line. Hurt Syndicate beat Gates of Agony in 9 minutes. Joke of a match. MJF came out and got Bobby Lashley fired up with a sideswipe before bringing out Talent, 7 women in little black dresses. MVP and particularly Shelton Benjamin were incredible. They sold the hell out of this. Lashley remained stone-faced even as the women were like physically rubbing him and drying him off. Better man than me. Shelton demanded Max's watch, but even though MJF agreed after a Lashley side-eye, he still gave a thumbs down. MJF gave it to him anyway as a token, promising there's more where that came from. Then MJF told Lashley that he's known for getting what he wants. Fans chanted that he's a scumbag. MVP later tried to convince Lashley to think of this as business, not personal, and he can help them get what they want. What exactly do they want? They're the tag team champions already. MVP has gotten them everything they want. How does MJF help them at all? I heard over the prior week that this was an incredible segment. Bringing out the Godfather's hose in 2025 and Shelton mumbling through a promo, despite being funny. To me, that's not incredible. Basically, I was Bobby here. Like, I appreciated the eye candy, but I was unmoved by it. On Dynamite this week, Hurt Syndicate came out with MVP bragging that every team they beat disappears from TV. That's really easy to do when Tony Khan just doesn't know how to book the tag team division. Lashley was about to speak when MJF entered the parking lot in a sports car. He nut-tapped the guy and asked for 3 thumbs up from Hurt Syndicate. Shelton voted in the affirmative, saying it wasn't because of the bribes last week, but because MVP wants it. Sure, Shelton. A guy in the crowd broke Lashley, saying they should have done it for the broads. MJF pitched Lashley that he knows how to cut corners better than anyone, and together they can run not only AEW but all of pro wrestling. Then he played not being able to say I'm sorry, which got the crowd chanting, and then he actually said I'm sorry. His last-ditch bribe was to give Lashley the sports car. Lashley wanted to see it. He took the keys, he sped off with Shelton's shotgun, and he gave a thumbs down out the window as he drove away. MVP reminded that he needs to give the people what they want. I thought he needed to give Lashley what he wanted. This was one of the more entertaining of their segments. Certainly made more sense than the prior week. AEW is building this for a big pop on the thumbs up. The question is, what happens afterward, and is that going to deliver? Again, the Hurts are already the tag team champions. They're already rich. MJF wants to go after the world title, so he wants their help. How is he going to help them? What accomplishment are they going to achieve? Might they team up and be tag team champions and trios champions? Maybe, but I don't see them booking that. Is MJF going to have Lashley go after the, whatever they call the title after Y'all In, the Intercontinental Championship, whatever they merge, the International and the Continental, or the TNT title? Like, what is there for them to achieve once MJF joins them? That's what I continue to struggle to understand. But is it entertaining, and do I like their interactions? I do. But I just don't see what the end goal is here. On Dynamite, later, MJF and Hangman got into an argument backstage. Paige said joining Syndicate won't get him any closer to the title. MJF called him an idiot and reminded that they're 1-1. And while Paige is a great wrestler, he'll choke in the finals like always. I enjoy the continuously growing feud between them. They just play off each other so damn well. On Collision 2 weeks ago, FTR spoke for the first time about turning on Adam Copeland, saying it was neither an easy decision nor premeditated, but Copeland was selfish in holding them down as they put their careers on hold. By the way, that was their own decision to do that. There was also the standard FTR talk about being living legends. Solid promo segment, got legit heat from a small crowd. They brought Tony Schiavone and his shitty maroon jacket and baggy gray pants. Can someone help this man dress? To the ring, and he said he loves FTR, but they were wrong. He brought up Dax Harwood's daughter again, and they were about to pile drive him through the canvas, but Nigel McGuinness saved him. Then Daniel Garcia ran in and got shoved. They apologized and hugged him. Solid segment overall, and I gotta say, I'm intrigued by the possibility of FTR turning Garcia to the dark side. That's far more interesting than like whatever his current character is. I'm also always a sucker for a former wrestler on commentary sticking up for the play-by-play guy, so that was really well done by Nigel, but I did inherently wish that Schiavone took the pile driver. I'm just being honest here. So later on that show, FTR beat 2.0 or whatever they're being called now in less than 4 minutes. This came after a backstage confrontation saying that, Matt Menard and Angelo Parker wouldn't let them get to Garcia. Menard bladed as part of this destruction. Garcia eventually convinced FTR to stop and just pin the guy. FTR came back to the ring after leaving. They murked Garcia with 2 assisted pile drivers before security and Paragon, which was called Undisputed Kingdom by Nigel, they saved. On Collision this week, FTR, in a letter that was read by Tony, said they have never gone through with the pile driver. They wouldn't have gone through with the pile driver. They just wanted to scare him. And they wish that their 1 week suspension was actually more substantial because they deserved it. Tony was again speaking about them on Dynamite when Stokely Hathaway returned after like 6 or more months away, looking like a pack of Vienna sausages. He introduced FTR, saying their suspension was unjust, given others have kidnapped, extorted, done terroristic acts, committed arson, etc. And you know what? Fair point. Like, why are they getting suspended when these people have done much, much worse things? The arena was so quiet that one loud, possibly drunk dude, he could be heard yelling one-liners at these guys the entire segment. FTR said a bunch of nothing. They brought up Rock and Roll Express into the ring because it's their standard operating procedure. Dax did the gimmick where he asked a question but didn't actually let them talk. Instead, he just took the mic himself and insulted them. Stokes showed a shirt that said Living Legend Killers, basically stealing Randy Orton's gimmick. They did an assisted powerbomb on Ricky Morton, and then Paragon saved. This was an absolutely brutal segment. How many times are we going to see? I want to say it's always FTR attacking them. Death Riders did it a couple months ago, but prior to that, I think it was FTR doing it to them again. Like, stop injecting the Rock and Roll Express into these segments, please, in 2025. What are we doing here? On Collision 2 weeks ago, Toni Storm called herself a slut, whore, and tramp, wishing luck to the ladies in the Owen Hart Cup. Hey, don't blame me. I'm just the messenger. Then she did almost like a Weekend Update skit, making comments about each of the competitors, with Chris Statlander being the only one she actually put over. That was pretty cool. On Collision 2 weeks ago, Jamie Hayter beat Billy Starks in an Owen match. Really nice match. High quality opener. Starks kicked out a Haterade. Really nice suplex spot ringside. Hayter finished with a Uranagi onto her knee and another Haterade. On Collision 2 weeks ago, Athena beat Harley Cameron in a 10-minute Owen match. This probably should not have gone as long, just given Athena's stature in ROH. Harley probably even shouldn't be in this tournament. She has a ways to go in the ring. On that same show later, Mercedes Moné cut a tape promo calling Athena a speed bump to All in Texas. So on Dynamite last week, Moné beat Athena in 21 minutes. They did the aura check at the bell. Athena hit basically a modified O-face off the apron, which was sick. Moné did 3 amigos, so Athena did 3 power bombs. The screen cut out like 5 times for me, which really sucked. Cool draping power slam over the middle rope, shotgun dropkick into the barricade by Athena. The finish was Moné preventing an O-face and then folding Athena over for the quick 1-2-3. Ultimately, it was a great match, perfectly placed as an opener, got boosted by a hot crowd. Hopefully, it's just a taste of what they can do when they're given a meteor storyline and a match with some psychology. 4.25 stars and an A. I believe it was the second best match I watched from AEW over the last 2 weeks. On Collision, Chris Statlander and Julia Hart beat Moné and Harley Cameron in the main event. There was a puppet segment backstage that was pretty solid. Storm watched on commentary. Hart had Moné locked over the ropes as Stat murked Cameron with a lariat. And I think Storm cheered for Stat at the end. I'm forgetting though. On Dynamite this week, Statlander fought Hayter. They did an interview segment on Collision agreeing that whoever won this match better go all the way. This main evented, which was nice. Stat hit about half of a 450 splash. Hayter caught her flying off the ropes with a lariat, dragged her lifeless body up and for Haterade and the 1-2-3. Pretty crazy. It took more for Hayter to beat Starks than it did Stat. I don't love that booking, though this absolutely was the right winner, Jamie, taking this. Just given the inconsistency with the way Chris has been booked in AEW, this was a really nice match. On Dynamite, Storm cut a random promo backstage, deciding to do an open challenge eliminator on Collision. Queen Aminata walked up immediately and was like, yo, I'm back. I'll take it. So she got the opportunity. Now, perhaps AEW wants you to forget that Storm literally beat Aminata 2 months ago. That was the eliminator. You don't need to do another one, you know? And since then, she's only defeated and lost to Julia on TV. This is ridiculous. On Dynamite 2 weeks ago, Nick Wayne was cutting a promo about Christian Cage disappearing when guess what? He showed up. Cage got in his face. Wayne said he executed the contract early because he was scared of Copeland becoming champion before him. Cage said that he stepped away so Wayne could find himself, and he impressed him. So Christian got him not only a spot in the New Japan Super Juniors tournament, but he got him a title match against Commander, which he would have to win on his own. Solid segment, legitimate tension between them. I do find myself wondering, what the hell is Kip Sabian doing here? He's on screen, he stands around, he makes zero impact. Just consider that he's the Carlito of this group. Carlito has a personality, he gets involved in stuff, and Sabian's just there. It's very odd. And it's especially odd when Shayna Wayne is just there and doesn't really do anything also. So there's 4 of them and 2 of them do nothing. On Collision this week, the ROH TV title was on the line. Nick Wayne beat Commander in 11 minutes to win the title. Simply awesome flying Canadian destroyer by Commander. Wayne then got feet up to block the tightrope shooting star press. He hit the Prodigy Plex to win the title at 19 years old. A really fun match. Overrated from what I've seen others say about it. Christian took the title from Wayne on Dynamite because it motivated him and he got the match made. Christian said that was all because of him. Wayne tried to take it back and failed, so Cage himself took it off his shoulder and gave it to Wayne, saying he loves his family. Sabian continued to do nothing. I'm liking this back and forth between Nick and Christian. I can see this developing into an interesting story. I have a feeling it's all a swerve and they're just going to come back together and kind of dominate stuff, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Christian breaks away and when Copeland comes back, they both go heel and tag it up and go after the titles. We'll have to see. On Collision 2 weeks ago, Megan Bayne beat 2 jobbers in 90 seconds. On Collision this week, Bayne beat 2 more jobbers in 80 seconds. Why are we running squashes when Bayne has already been firmly established as dominant? Let her wrestle real matches against real opponents that actually matter. She can beat some people. The equivalent, I don't know if she's hurt or not, but like the equivalent of Sky Blue or Julia Hart or whomever the case. Just let her win matches. Squashing jobbers does nothing for anyone. On Collision 2 weeks ago, Kevin Knight beat AR Fox. Fun match with no storyline relevance. On Collision this week, Knight beat Archer, who cannot beat anyone. Decent match with zero relevance until after it was over backstage when Renee said it was because they wouldn't let Callis recruit Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. Ricochet talked a bunch of random shit. Knight said he actually respected him and his hot wife, but at least he has hair. At least there's a reason for this forthcoming match. Tony Schiavone told us, what a freaking great segment. Was it, Tony? Was it a great segment? On Dynamite, the Bucks beat Knight and Bailey in 16 minutes. There was no reason for this match. Cool spot where Speedball did a springboard moonsault outside as Knight simultaneously did a springboard splash inside. The moves themselves we've seen a million times, but the visual of the combined offense was awesome. Knight hit his twisting frog splash for a massively choreographed broken fall. The Bucks did a doomsday device off the barricade, then caught Bailey flying off the ropes outside for a tightrope TK driver off the barricade. Ricochet held Knight's leg that delayed his offense, and it allowed the Bucks to hit EVP trigger and get the win. Again, really fun wrestling. It had no reason or purpose outside of the mini Ricochet Knight storyline. And when you put all these together, you just wonder, why am I wasting my time on this? Or, you know what? That's not really fair. What you really wonder is, why can someone not simply develop creative that gives legitimate storyline relevance to these matches? So that way I'm not only enjoying the action, but I care about who wins and I care about what happens next. Because right now I don't in these circumstances. On Dynamite this week, Mark Briscoe beat Ricochet in 14 minutes. Ricochet avoided Froggy Bow and hit a springboard 450. He tried to cheat by covering with his legs on the ropes. Briscoe countered into a one-leg cover for the 1-2-3. Ricochet landed 2 chair shots and then pulled his golden scissors out from a turnbuckle. Why would they have been there? Like, why would he have put them there before a match with Briscoe, who he's not feuding with? Knight saved and stomped on the scissors. Ricochet ran away. I just kept asking myself, why? Why this match? Why this booking? Why the scissors in the turnbuckle? On Collision 2 weeks ago, Anthony Bowens beat Blake Christian, who is clearly the latest flavor of the month, not quite a jobber who appears weekly on AEW TV. It's just funny how that works. Continue to like the presentation of Bowens, hate the Molly Wop finisher, both the finisher and the name. It's not enough for a guy like him. Extremely weak content in his post-match promo. It seems like he's just doing his own open challenge-ish deal now, which is what Max Caster did, except Caster's no longer on TV. On Collision this week, Bowens got a promo package in which he used like 4 different catchphrases. The 5-tool player gimmick, it just does not work for me at all. Pride of AEW, pride of wrestling. It is so unique. It is so good. It is so fitting for him. And they just shove it as his like 3rd catchphrase. It's ridiculous. On Collision, Big Bill said he's disappointed in Chris Jericho and he's getting angry at him. Brian Keith said they should only be saying that stuff in private and they should handle it like family. And Bill may have actually driven him away. Bill said, either way, we got to start wrestling and winning. Okay. I mean, that's a fair point. If the move is to have them go on a string of wins and then start losing when Jericho returns, that would make a lot of sense, but we'll see what happens. On Collision, LFI, including Roosh back on TV, beat 3 jobbers in 2 minutes. This was Roosh's first match in 2 months. He hasn't fought a non-squash match in 5 months. And lastly, on Collision, Top Flight cut a backstage promo, excited to battle the Crew next week in a tornado match. Security then separated the 4 of them. All AEW tags should be tornado matches, as we have said numerous times. This show, I think at least for Saturday, is being called Playoff Palooza, so it's going to air, I guess, after NBA playoff games. I'm not sure if the same is being said for the Wednesday Dynamite. I think there's another special name for that show. AEW is getting into that zone now where like every week of shows is a special name. They did that a couple years ago where it was, I want to say like 7 out of 8 weeks and it just became ridiculous. They're back in that, although they're not so much treating them the same in terms of the way they're building the cards. They're just kind of using them as taglines. So it's a little bit different. So look, that's the wrap up of AEW TV over the last 2 weeks. I'm actually relatively shocked we were able to get it done so quickly, but it goes to what I was saying earlier, that there are some longer storylines that are being developed, some involved storylines that are being developed, but it's just like a lot of car crash stuff all happening. And you're not having people like tell tales. Yes, Mox and Joe are doing something, and FTR is developing as a heel team with Stoke, which is kind of random, but fine. And, the Callis family added people to it. But like, what am I really sinking my teeth into? What is something where when I turn on AEW next week, I say, I can't wait to see what happens next. And really the only storyline where I feel that way right now is probably MJF and Hurt Syndicate. Everything else is like, oh yeah, they're doing that. Oh, okay, that's what's happening. Cool, okay. And it's either great or, mediocre or bad. And I don't know. It's just been, despite Dynamite from 2 weeks ago being, again, incredible, getting through the other 6 hours of this was more difficult than I wanted it to be. And that's coming off. Don't forget, Silver King was immensely positive about the run of shows going into really their last two PLEs, coming out of Revolution and going into the last show. But ever since, it's just been a little bit, off kilter for me. And I've seen continued talk on social media. Wow, AEW has really found the sauce again. They're rolling. They're going back to what they used to do. In some respects, yeah, they're putting on just banger matches on TV, and that's making fans happy, and that's great. But is that expanding your audience? That's the question. And I don't know that that's actually happening. So we're just going to skip over any type of ratings talk or something. There's playoffs involved. They did get a low rating on Dynamite this week, but they're up against NBA playoffs. I think they were up against a playoff game the week prior, or play-in game, the week prior. So, none of it is really that important anyway. We can take a wholesale look at this next week on the Thursday show when Silver King has more voice and has more time and is way less exhausted than he is right now. I just wanted to make sure we got this AEW episode in before the week was out, because there's a lot more coming up here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We're obviously going to be back Tuesday with our next WWE show. We'll be talking the SmackDown after WrestleMania, which, as I'm taping this on Friday night, they keep adding segments to the show. It seems like it's going to be absolutely loaded. And then a big Fallout episode of Raw coming out of the Raw after WrestleMania, which was at least the best one of those in the last decade, maybe even longer than that. So there's a lot of stuff there. We'll probably rehash more about The Rock. Speaking of that, the Silver King posted on buymeacoffee.com/gettingover what I'm calling the he said bullshit of The Rock, Triple H, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Travis Scott, really the entire deal. I don't even know how many words it was. It's probably 2,000 word breakdown of the entire situation. I do hope that you all support the show. And remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
I didn't promote it earlier. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Not only do you get the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reaction audio to every major show, you also get news analysis and big-time news breakdowns like the one we published. Again, it's $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You're not only getting extra content, but you're supporting the continuation of this show. And that is so important to us because this remains ad-free. Speaking of ways you can support this show.
It's all about the 5.
If you remember it's all about the 5, then you'll head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. You'll take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And I always mention Apple, but if you listen to us on Spotify, please hit that 5-star. We want to go up in our ratings over there. That would be immensely important for us. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. I told you why earlier. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show. We'll do our best to get them on the air as we did for the shows around and after WrestleMania. And I'm still combing through some of those. So we're going to be getting more of you on the show this coming Tuesday for the WWE episode. And I forgot to mention, back next Thursday talking NXT and AEW. Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. The Silver King badly needs to rest his voice. So at this point, it is time to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.